welcome to a CBK Gaming review video, where today we are looking at Museum by Holy Grail Games. It's a competitive set collection game where you, the player, take on the role of a curator in a museum. It's played between 1 and 4, although there is an expansion that allows you to play with 5 players. It's set in the roaring 1920s, 1930s, and there are relics from the various continents that you collect to put into your museum. For each item that you put in your museum, you have to put something into your warehouse or a common pool, which other players can take cards from and manipulate that deck, where public opinion tokens could reduce the overall victory points at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Now, we've just finished playing a 5-player game. Unfortunately, Chris had to rush off to attend to his rather large dog, Mr. Moose. So let's we're going to look at this as we do normally. We'll have a look at the content first. So we normally look at the what you get for the money that you pay. This is the Kickstarter version, and the price point currently for Museum, the core set, which is what we played with the 5th player edition, is around £40 when you look at the various websites. So, giving it a score between 1 and 10, which is the scoring system that we use. Tanya, what do you think content-wise?
I really like it. I think the content is great. All of the different cards that you collect to put in your museum have all got beautiful pictures on them, and they've all got information about what the item is. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think the amount of content, the amount of information is absolutely great. They look beautiful. The tokens are great. The museums are pretty. I loved it. I thought it was great. I'd give a high mark for that.
Out of 10, what would you...
Oh, see, now I have to make a decision. Yeah, I'd give it a solid 9, I think, yeah.
Ken?
I unabashedly love this game. So, internet, bear that in mind. I think the content is great. As Tanya was saying about the cards themselves, all of the different continents and the subcultures in the continents are broken down. The illustrations are beautiful. They're also consistently beautiful. The artwork is of a very high standard. The information that goes with those items is concise. It gives you a little indication of what it's from, where it's from, a little bit about its provenance. Not an overwhelming amount of detail, but enough to tantalise you. The rest of the items, they're attractive. The cards which indicate your victory conditions are well designed. They're simple. The newspapers, the cards which indicate what's going on in the world and how it affects you as a curator, a museum owner, as an archaeologist, they're nicely designed and attractive in a font that's appropriate to the period. Mm-hmm. The museums themselves, they're fine. They're functional rather than particularly attractive, but that's fine. There's a variety of them, but they all are pretty much identical because of the nature of the gameplay. So that in itself doesn't detract from the rest of it, but it's a bit samey. Overall, the cards make it for me, so I'm going to give it a 9.
Okay.
Karen?
I'm actually going to go with a 7. I know.
Clutches pearls. What is this?
No, you do get a lot of content. You get what you need for the game, but as we were playing with 5-player, we actually ran out of one area of cards
We did.
towards the end.
That's a good point,
Although-
Internet. She's got a good point.
It depends on your game style. I didn't mind it because I saw the story of it as in we've depleted that region.
It was also my fault because I kept taking
It was. You
cards
kept
from there,
collecting all of them. But that's the point. We've hoarded so much from that area of the world that there's no more relics to find. So the storytelling wise, it was good. But I just worry that if you get more people making collections from that area, you're going to run out of cards sooner, and some people might not be happy with that sort of style of play. Yeah, I do. It's also the quality of the cards, but we'll come to that in a minute. That's a different one in quality. Yeah, it just sits comfortably at a 7 for me.
I'd actually have to agree. Content-wise, you get a lot for your money. There is some repetition in there. I think the cards are well done, and again that ties into quality, which we'll move into in a minute. But overall, there is a good amount. Could just be a little bit more. And one of those things for me is around the expert cards. I'd like to have seen them on larger cards, or perhaps the mechanic dealt with slightly differently. Perhaps having the mechanic, as Chris said, within the actual cards for the various continents, and having you come across those as part of the exploration phase.
It did start feeling that this was sort
Gets
of
forgotten.
added on at the last minute as an extra mechanic, and it does tend to get forgotten. It's
That is the one area I think that's easily forgotten and overlooked. So that segues nicely into the quality. So I think it's worth pointing out that to me the cards are very well printed. As we say, the headline cards, which tell you what's going on in the world and can change what's available in continents, either increasing or decreasing the availability of cards. They're very well done. I really like the font. It really comes across as of the period. The print, and you'll see images now on the screen of some of the cards. It's fantastic and really gives you a bit of knowledge and a bit of information on the actual artefacts themselves. And I think it's fair to say that all of us have a love of history and archaeology, and so that we find that particularly enticing. The Kickstarter variant that we have here, the actual moulds for the player markers are really nice. We really like those. And I think we may have to paint them at some point once we've painted through the horde of models that we need to paint. The only thing that lets it down in my mind for quality is the expert cards. Again, not to harp on about it, but I think they should have been bigger cards, and perhaps the mechanics should have been different. Other than that, really good. I would give it a good 8 out of 10 for the quality. I think there are some changes that could be made, but overall, a good.
Now, see, I am going to go with an 8 for quality. I would say a 7 because the cards already, I mean, we've played this, coming up to 10 times, maybe more.
Yeah.
I saw tonight a couple of cards are just starting to get dogged because of the amount of changing round they have. But because of the number of cards you have, you wouldn't want it to be on that much thicker card stock. So it's
we may have to
balance.
sleeve them.
I think it's one that you have to sleeve because of the times that you're changing the cards around. So I would look at a 7 because of that. Everything else, I mean, the board's quite a nice sturdy board. The tokens, these ones are nice, sort of thick, hard tokens. The museum cards I like. They're actually really nice quality. I like. However, the print on the cards is just beautiful. I absolutely love it, and the information that you get, the pictures of them, the fact that they are all genuine artefacts that are out there in the world, and you're sitting reading about them and collecting them, that pushes it strongly into an 8 for me on quality.
Tony?
It's another 9 for me because it's the first time I've ever played this. It's not my game, so I'm not going to experience what it's like to play it many, many times over. So how the longevity of the pieces is not something I feel I'm ever going to be able to comment on. So for me, it's very much the initial contact with the game, and it all looks to be gorgeous quality. When it wasn't my go, I was sat reading through the cards that I've got in my museum and in my common pool. When I didn't have to pick a particular card because I needed it for a collection, I was picking the one I liked the look of and that I wanted to read about. I want that one, it's a star map. So it was totally engrossing me in the game. It was adding to the game for me. So a solid 9 for that. And again, the only bit of the game I haven't really engaged in, unfortunately, is the experts, because I forgot they were there. They're not a part of your turn. There isn't a part of your turn where it's, now look at the experts. There was nothing to jog my memory that it was there. And because this is a new game, I had to be told what I was doing a lot of the time. So yeah, I don't know how to engage with that part of the game apart from remembering to look each time. At which point, why not make it just a natural part of your go? Yeah, your turn starts or ends. Look at the experts. So that just didn't quite sit with the rest of the game for me. It could be removed completely and I wouldn't miss it. And I'd be interested to know what it adds. So 9 was a very long-winded way of saying 9.
So discussing materials only, without going into the gameplay.
Quality of components.
Sure. Again, the cards are beautifully printed, although I could see how they are quite flimsy and could over time degrade. But I've only played this game twice, and I haven't noticed any degradation. The board itself, robust. The counters, robust, as are the museum maps. Again, the cards for experts are smaller than main play cards. Considering the fact that they are supposed to contribute to your turn, they are easy to overlook. So, purely on materials, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Again, the artifact cards bring the whole score up, but those feel superfluous. They don't look like they are part of the gameplay. I
like the idea, but they just, as you say, they're very easy to overlook.
Yeah. So complexity. How easy is it to pick up?
Well, Tanya has only just played this game today. We decided that it would be interesting to invite Tanya and our scholarly friend Ken along.
Hello again, Internet.
And the non-scholarly Tanya.
Well, we didn't like to say it.
Lay person.
So, how easy did you find it to pick up?
Yeah, easy. Yeah. I'm not putting myself down when I say a game does have to be easy to pick up for me to play it. Really complex games just aren't my thing. You know, I learn by doing. So games where people have to explain lots to me, I'm just going to glaze over and switch off, quite frankly. I just want to get in there, play around, figure it out. Collection games and things like that, I understand. I've played similar games to this, so those mechanics of it were ones that I could pick up really easily.
I think you were one of the only ones to actually get the bonus layout in your museum.
I
one
was.
of the only. I know you were the other.
It's the first time I've done it, so don't take that away from me.
You get 10 times first time you've done it. First player gets the bonus.
But the layout of this made it easy to work out that you need these. I love the fact that the way you arrange what you get, it's not only enough to get these collections, you have to be able to lay them out in a particular way, and that
much like a museum.
And that just really appealed to me. This sort of pattern matching stuff I just really, really enjoyed. So the complexity of play was really good, but there's enough depth to it with the public opinion and things like that, where if you're finding certain bits of the gameplay easy, there's other things like, oh, well, you need to consider that so you're not losing too many points at the end. I'm sure that the experts will add yet another layer of complexity to it when they're properly integrated.
I mean, you can...
Chris and myself use the experts.
Yes, yeah.
So, yeah, it feels like it's simple to pick up, but there's enough complexity there to keep your interest. I know I want to play this again. So next time I'm over, if we can have another game of this, please, I would love that.
Well, I mean, we say the complexity of 1 is it's hard and complex to pick up. 10 is you can pick up and play straight away within minutes. So where would you...
I definitely needed that first round where we played an open hand with everything seen and explained. I definitely needed that, and I definitely needed to ask you a few questions.
Yeah.
There were a couple of things that I got confused about, like the term common pool and the term warehouse.
Yeah. That was my fault in explaining it.
So there were a couple of things that I just wanted clarification on. So I think for that reason I'd probably give it an 8. But I think that's a really good score because I wouldn't call myself an absolute avid fervent board game player. I don't play them enough, and I haven't played them for years. So yeah, good.
You've played it a couple of times.
I have, yeah.
And I think you've picked up the nuances quite quickly.
The game mechanics when you're in play are pretty easy to follow. It's essentially a trading game. You're swapping like for like, numbers for numbers. There are some additional bonuses that you get through prestige, which is the repute of your collection. You can sometimes earn other players' prestige by taking parts of their collection and showing it in yours. It's a simple mechanic, but it changes the scoring somewhat. But the end scoring process is bogglingly complicated as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, you need one person who knows that really well, who has to take over at that point and kind of...
So the mechanics
guide you through
of gameplay whilst you're in it, I would say would be an 8 out of 10. But because of the complexity of the final scoring, the duration of it, and the fact that it does take quite a long time to figure out who's won, I'm going to drop it to 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
And that's my view.
The scoring complexity is tough.
I'd be torn between the 7 and 8 myself because of those exact same reasons. It is easy to pick up. You know what you're doing round to round. You can see what cards you want that you can take. You can see what ones you're going to use as a swap out later. So you can gather your hand up quite easily. But working out exactly how you want the collections, and that's where it's caught me out a few times. Every time we play, even tonight, I still started one collection and then halfway through suddenly realised I'd forgotten one of the rules and I was collecting the wrong bit.
That's just a nuance of the game.
It is, yeah, but as we've said, at the end, when you get to rearrange everything, and that's when there's so many different ways you could gain points from your collections that you are then sitting for ages shuffling it round.
I think it's worth noting that in this game, adding the points up is actually another final round. Because if you're being very competitive, everybody should have that one final setup of their museum, and that is it. You shouldn't help each other. You should just sit down. Now, we don't play games like that. I think it's quite good fun to sit down and help each other out to get the best possible result.
I think that's great if you're all on an equal footing. If that had happened tonight on my first...
It would have been difficult.
Playing of the game, that just puts me in cannon fodder territory, really.
I'm just trying to make out that, or explain that actually that complex last step of working out the victory points and who has actually won is a step in the game as well.
True.
And that's quite different. There's not many games that I can think of off the top of my head where the working out of those victory points is also a stage of the game.
And that leads into the conversation about the community of the game. And it is, whilst it is technically a competitive game in that you're all trying to get the best possible curated exhibits, there is a huge amount of cooperation and fun.
Yes, there is, and I think we'll go through that in the overall score because I think there's some really good things to pull out in the conversations.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's it.
what are you giving it points wise?
I'm going to give it an 8, but say it's a low 8.
You're giving it an 8.
It's an 8.
An 8 minus. Harsh marks from the East German judge.
So I think I'm going to go with a 7 because I agree. I think it's overly complex towards the end, working out the points. I think there's some aspects which you can trip up on, and particularly around the experts, which I know we've already really discussed. And I also think that the individual targets which you are given at the beginning of the game, every player gets 2 objectives and they choose one of those objectives to follow through. I get the impression that some of those are much more complex than others, and there's a random element of what you're handed. And I know Chris tonight was trying to get Roman culture because certain players beforehand, Karen, took all the Roman cultures.
Chris and I ended up with the equal number of Roman cards.
Oh, did you? I didn't
Yes,
think you
yes.
did.
You are welcome.
He
to
made
Roman
a big
cards.
thing about me having them. He had exactly the
The
same
same
number.
card.
It was just they
Okay.
weren't coming up.
But
They weren't coming up to
that
scalp
just
it, but,
feels that there's a disparity in some of those objective cards for me. Okay, so let's look at the fun factor. Now, I think, as everybody would have seen, we all had a good laugh. And for me, sitting around a table with your friends, home cooking, some drinks, and having a laugh, not taking it too seriously.
This is a great rainy afternoon game.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for me, this is a 9 out of 10.
This is one of the best rainy afternoon games I've ever played. This is it's got a didactic component. There is a lot of learning to be had from it. But the simple amount of joy of playing this game, every time we've played it, we've had a tremendously good time.
And that's a sign of a good game.
Solid 9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
I
And
will
me.
never give a 10 internet, but this is a solid 9. This game makes me happy.
We've taught him well.
Yeah.
What about you, Tony?
I loved it. I had a great time. I completely agree. It is that kind of rainy afternoon game. The gameplay itself takes a certain amount of time to get to, 50 points, and then the final round. But as we were finding tonight, and I think to get the most enjoyment out of the game, you have to allow extra time just for the conversation that's going to come out.
Yeah.
You know, the oh, I've been there, the oh, I wanted to go there, and all that kind of stuff. That is a really, really important part of the fun of this game. So yeah, it's a definite 9 from me. I kind of want to give it 10 because I had so much fun. But
I think that moves on to replayability. And replayability here, it's a competitive game, which makes it more replayable.
yes, I want to win next time, not come fourth.
But you also want that drive to look through those cards.
Yeah.
There are plenty of expansions which we have not yet used, and we are very much wanting to play the Cthulhu
please,
expansion.
please.
I want to play the Black Market expansion because I have friends that work in provenance in this field.
Right, so that's another couple of games, and we will be doing a review of the expansions,
Which I hope to be playing.
I mean, I think there are. What have we got? 4?
3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 expansions, I think,
Are there?
because there's one we don't have.
Wow.
That's going to be one
Yeah.
rainy afternoon.
I might be wrong. We will double check. We'll put the proper note up from the Kickstarter because they do have another Kickstarter coming, but we'll mention that more on the.
Yeah. I mean, we've got 4 of the expansions, and the 5th player one. Yeah. Well, we've got there's a World Fair one, which brings in the cooperative.
We're not looking at those, so we're not going through the expansions.
Justice.
But replayability.
Yeah, it's definitely a 9.
9.
Yeah. Want to play it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interested in the expansions. This is an instant favourite.
Yeah.
One of the things that makes it such a replayable game is the sheer amount of joy it brings to the people at the table.
Yes.
Because you look forward to sitting down and playing this game with people because they have such a good time. So 9,
You work off the energy of the room.
Absolutely.
So let's look at the overall score.
Okay. I'm going to move the box.
Okay.
I wanted to come in a bit closer.
The overall score. What do you think? I know where Ken you're going.
Are we going to get an unseen Internet 10?
No, we're not.
Apparently not internet.
9.5.
Stop it. Now, overall, I find this game incredibly fun, incredibly satisfying. I mean, part of the fun of a game like this for me is learning things which I don't already know. What you may not know is that I've got a background in classical history and archaeology, so get out of here. So I get to really nerd hard in my field, but also I am being challenged constantly by new and exciting things. So I love that component. I love the fact I get to share this game and my enthusiasm for the ancient past with people I really care about. It's a wonderful opportunity for us to get together and all share new things, learn new things together. It's an interesting game in that it's set in a specific historical period as well, and there are historical components within the game which you are having to negotiate. It teaches you about the time when this kind of collection was being formed, and some of the issues around that kind of acquisitiveness as well.
Appropriation
of other cultures. It's actually got quite a lot of depth for a board game which is basically about putting stuff in lines. It's got a lot of depth, and it's well worth your investigation. And I know I've gone on, and I know I'm excited, and I'm going to give it a 9.5.
Yay!
Well done, game creators.
I think it's actually really important. One of the things that we at CBK really are very interested in is board gaming as an educational tool, and this is a game which I would really like to see in a school environment. I think it's a game. Yes, it's competitive, so perhaps that could be somewhat divisive.
It's
however,
gently competitive.
it is. But we know what school children can be like.
Having been them.
However, I think as a child, and this was in history, I would have really enjoyed this, and it would have given me. I think Chris actually said before he left, this actually has made him want to pick up a book and read about some of the artefacts that are in the game. And imagine if that was children in a history class being encouraged to read and study and learning in a fun environment. And I think there's a number of games that do that. This is one of them. Hall or Nothing, Tristan and Francesca, I hope I got her name right, with 1066 Tears of Many Mothers, their new game that's on Kickstarter, St. Elmo's Pay. Those are really good educational games, and
this could be the launch pad for little archaeologists and historians quite easily. So, or just a general interest in anthropology. Like human material culture is here from the whole world for you for a very nominal fee. You should be buying it.
There'll be a link in the description where you can buy this game. I also have to say, the guys from Holy Grail Games, we met them at the UK Games Expo. They were absolutely lovely. They played through the game with us. We had a really good laugh with them. We did threaten to come back and play it again, but they actually had a huge queue, which really did show.
I can understand why.
Because it's quite a visual game. It's quite good. It pops on the table.
Oh, certainly, it's very bright.
And they were absolutely brilliant. So and they had a real thirst for history and this period and the game itself. It was really nice to see. But for me, it's a 9.
Yeah.
It's not an action game.
No.
It's important to get that, though. It's not an action game. This is a game which is whimsical and fun and educational and really warm and cosy, but it's not a zombie busting, kicking down doors kind of game.
It is a game that makes you really hate public opinion.
Context is maybe required here, isn't it?
You will see on the screen now a public opinion card and why Tanya dislikes them so much.
They have a significant effect on gameplay.
I do believe it meant you went to
From
third place?
Second to
First. First, you were first.
Yeah, for a short while.
The public is fickle, Tanya Greenwell.
The public clearly hates me.
Okay, so that's our review of Museum by Holy Grail Games. We really appreciate that you've watched this far. If you enjoy what you've seen, please consider liking, subscribing. We really do appreciate it, and we do try to take time to upload a review once a week. We've been working quite hard on trying to achieve that. We're also going to be bringing some unboxing videos in between, which I'm not sure when we're going to be doing that yet. But that's going to be Tainted Grail when that turns up, which we're really looking forward to. We'll be doing a review of that as soon as we can. We're next looking to review Night Fighter Ace by Compass Games, which is an interesting solo war game. We're also going to be reviewing shortly Wingspan, which I know you've played.
Wingspan was another good educational game.
And we've also got a review for U-Boat that's in the. We just want to still play another couple of hours of that. It's a very complex, very in-depth, but very interesting game. And the Arkham Horror expansion that came out this month just recently.
More tentacles.
So thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing whether you uploading more videos. Thank you. Bye.